Hi there, my name's Grant and I've made a short tutorial for people who want to make reusable examination masks. I've put a link to the design file as well as a materials list in the video description below. You can use any high thread count fabric for this project and just cut it about 1 inch larger than the intended mask size. For this mask, the finished cut size is 8 inches by 14 inches. This should fit most people, but you can scale your mask to fit larger or smaller faces. It's really the length of the elastic which will determine the best fit. So I used my Glowforge laser cutter to cut and score the fabric. You could also just cut the fabric with scissors, but using the laser cutter makes everything align really well. I used some flat magnets to hold down the fabric to the laser cutter bed. You could also use tape. I also included etch marks in the design file along the edges of the fabric, so that indicates where to fold or sew the mask later. As you can see, I'm not really a seamstress, but you can watch me struggle through this. I included a mark on the pattern where you can make a small buttonhole. This will come into play later when you want to insert a piece of wire to form the mask over your nose. I'm using a Brother CS6000i sewing machine, but refer to your machine's documentation on how to use your buttonhole foot. It's a little difficult to see here, but the bottom of the mark on the fabric should align with the crosshairs on the buttonhole foot. If it all goes well, the buttonhole stitching will open up the scored fabric, but you can also just open up the resulting hole with a seam ripper. Once you've got your buttonhole sewn, flip the fabric to the wrong side and fold it in half. So here we'll swap out the buttonhole foot for a standard foot. If you're making lots of masks, you'll want to stitch all the buttonholes at once. So you'll just want to run a seam down the open end of the folded fabric to make a tube. There are marks for this on the design, but it's basically a 1/4 inch allowance. Once that's done, turn the tube right side out and press it flat. Here's where the marks in the fabric come in handy. They'll show you where to fold the pleats into the mask. I've found that pinching the mask at the score marks is easiest, but just iron the pleats as you go. It takes a little practice and as best as hands, but it's not too hard. Here I'm putting another seam along the top of the mask, which is the part with the buttonhole, to make a pocket about 1/4 inch from the edge. Once the pleats are done, go back to the sewing machine and run a seam down each side to lock the pleats into place. I'm using about an 1/8 inch allowance here. After sewing the pleats in the pocket for the wire, just fold back each end of the mask about a 1/4 inch and press them into place. Take your piece of elastic and tuck about a 1/4 inch of it under the end of the folded end of the mask. I used a zigzag stitch for this, which is the number 4 stitch on my machine, but mainly you just want a real strong stitch to securely tack the end of the elastic under the fold. Just repeat this for the other end of the same piece of elastic and repeat on the other end of the mask. You just want to make sure not to twist the elastic here. Once I got the elastic secured, I just ran a seam back down the edge of the folded end to secure everything into place. So now is when the buttonhole comes in handy. I found some 12 gauge aluminum wire at the local craft store. Just cut a piece the same length as the top of the mask and insert it into the pocket you made earlier. And you're done. Have fun and stay safe. Cheers.